event and save up to 60% on hundreds of wedding sets. Many are below wholesale. Plus, you'll receive 12 months interest-free financing OAC, as well as our lifetime warranty. The $1 Million Bridal event is on now at Simmons Fine Jewelry. Don't miss this amazing opportunity to save hundreds on an exquisite wedding set you'll both cherish for a lifetime. Visit our showroom today and discover why Simmons Fine Jewelry is where Idaho gets engaged.
Simmons Fine Jewelry, the wedding ring store, and so much more.
Point S Tire and Auto Service. Get to the point.
Hi, I'm Craig Brunel from Point S Tire and Auto Service. Some of you may not know that around 1959, my father, Frank Brunel, bought a tire store in Caldwell and called it Crown Tire. He worked hard, honest, and provided great service and had good success. In 1966, he started Brunel Tire Service in Lewiston, and business continued to grow. In the 80s, I got out of college and came to work with my dad. Now my sons, Mitch, Riley, and Nate, work with me. We are Point S Tire and Auto Service, partnered with like-minded owners that still operate with the same family honesty, hard work, and great customer value. For your tire and auto service needs, come to any of the Point S Tire and Auto Service locations in Boise, Meridian, Caldwell, and with 2 locations and a new store in Nampa near the Garrity exit. And don't forget our Point S partners in Parma, Homedale, and Payette. Get service, get value, get to the point.
Point S Tire and Auto Service. Get to the point.
More coming up with Ammon Bundy next. First, traffic and weather together at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. KIDO Talk Radio traffic. On the freeway, we have a couple of accidents working at Chinden and Linder, 2 separate accidents, so watch for that. If you're traveling eastbound on the freeway, once you get past the connector headed down toward the airport, bright sunshine on that windshield. Dennis Dillon RV has over 1,000 new and used RVs. Save on the 2018 models with 1-year free VIP storage, no payment for 90 days, and top value for your trade. Dennis Dillon RV on I-84 between Cole and Orchard. That's your Impact Directory traffic update. I'm Dave Burnett on KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO Talk Radio weather from the Channel 7 First Alert Weather Center.
Very mild for mid-January. The upper around 51 degrees again. Tomorrow, increasing clouds and a chance of rain. A break on Wednesday. Still warm in the upper 40s to low 50s. Cooling up by Friday and the weekend for a little snow down in the valley. I'm Channel 7 meteorologist Jim Duke.
Dave Ramsey, weekdays at noon. Now back to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM and 580 AM.
And once again, back with Ammon Bundy joining us. Mr. Bundy, again, we appreciate you joining us. I know it's, we can't describe what you've been through. So we appreciate you taking time to speak with us here this morning.
Absolutely. And thank you for all your work. Appreciate it.
Well, a lot of people always say, what are the Bundys like? And again, you don't remember me, but I went to Nevada, and you guys were like the friendliest people ever. And going to Oregon, it just spurred us to go there. And it was just, again, your family is so full of love and patriotism and faith. It's amazing. I remember just hanging out with you in Bunkerville. But regardless of that, let's go back to where you were in Burns. All of a sudden, you've got these FBI folks in. You're very, very isolated. You were isolated, of course, in Nevada, but I mean, that seemed like civilization to where you were in Oregon. Or what was it like on the inside there at the sanctuary?
Yeah, so, I mean, kind of to, just inform your listeners, we chose to go way out of town to this wildlife refuge. One, because it was, the federal wildlife refuge control, but also because it was 35 miles out of town. And we knew that this was going to bring a lot of attention and so forth, and we wanted to get it out of town. We wanted to not, be in the mix of everything that was, going on in town. So that kids could go to school and people can function, and yet we could still make our voice heard. Well, if you remember, here we are 35 miles out of town, and then what does the FBI decide to do? They take over the high school and shut it down and take over the county buildings and literally turned Burns into their, I don't know what they wanted to say, their central place of I mean, they basically turned high school into a base. And there's no coincidence in that. They were trying to incite the people against us, to turn the people against us. There was no reason for them to do that. They were trying to lay I guess it's hard to explain everything that they were doing because there's a lot to it, but basically they're trying to get the people to think that we were really dangerous, therefore that they would turn against us, and again, so that they could use force. And part of doing that was taking over downtown Burns and not allowing the kids to go to school, and so that everybody was affected by this. And anyway, it caused a lot of chaos in Burns there. So that was kind of the scenario, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to go out of town, to not have that happen.
What were your days like within the refuge?
We were, again, lots of people coming. I was actually a lot of times out visiting with other ranchers and with other community leaders in the community, and trying to understand what needs to happen in Harney County. We began to make a plan with these individuals to make things better, and then at the refuge we were having seminars about the Constitution, of these land right issues, the limitations on the federal government, and we were basically organizing people to go through these seminars, and we kept doing that constantly. We do several a day, and they were about a 2-hour presentation. And then we began to get invited to other communities, to other counties were organizing, seeing what we were doing, and actually getting excited about being able to be more free and be able to have control of their own lands and resources, and to be able to get the economy charged up again so that people can actually sustain themselves in these counties. So they began inviting us to these outskirt areas as well, to different counties, surrounding counties, and even other states were starting to call on us and wanting us to go to these to their areas and present these, do these presentations. And that's basically what we were doing.
Ammon Bundy joining us, Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. So you are having these press conferences. How would you describe your multiple interactions with the sheriff of Harney County?
Well, they started out very private, just going in and talking to him. And we had many, many conversations, both over the phone and in his office. And I could tell he was very conflicted, meaning he could see, I believe personally, he could see the injustice here. But he was also very fearful. And another thing is he wasn't quite educated enough to understand these principles. He was getting there, but he hadn't done his homework enough to know, these constitutional principles, to know the limitations that the Constitution places upon the federal government, and to be sure in it. And so I began to try to help him and understand that, give him materials and so forth. But then shortly after the federal government found out that I was talking to him, they also began to come in just, and in great numbers to him, and communicating with him and trying to get him to not respond to me and not react in any way to me. And eventually the sheriff must have felt it was just too risky for him to stand for the people, and he just turned away from me and what the people were trying to do there in Harney County and to the Hammonds, and he began to just go with the narrative of the federal government, the FBI, and other agencies that were there. And then pretty soon they the FBI completely took over the county and completely manipulated the sheriffs and the surrounding county sheriffs as well. And, I could go into detail about some of the things that they did there. For example, like at the high school where they made it their base point, I guess there was one wing of the high school that was only FBI, and none of the sheriffs can go in that wing. They wouldn't allow any of here are county sheriffs who are the senior law enforcement officers in the county, and they would not allow them, and they would go back in there. The FBI would go back in there and make their plans and their decisions, and then they'd come out and tell the sheriffs what they were going to do. And that was just a little bit of a scenario what was going on in that high school. And the Sheriff Ward just got sucked up into that. He wasn't strong enough to stand for the people. He didn't have, wasn't educated enough, didn't have his principles, and wasn't willing to stand on them enough. And the FBI just came over and steamrolled him. And, I saw it, but I just couldn't do much about it. I just didn't have enough influence on him to try to get him to stand, and he just folded.
Ammon Bundy joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Ammon, this gets a little emotional. Can you tell us about your friend Lavoy?
So, Lavoy decided to, he's a rancher in northern Arizona. Got a wonderful family, a wife. I mean, he just served in the church, served his community. Just, I don't know anybody who doesn't like Lavoy. And he sees what's happening. He's experiencing what's happening to his ranch and what happened to our ranch in Nevada. And then he reads and understands what's happening to the Hammonds and the people of Harney County. And so he decides to come up for that rally on the 2nd that we were having. And that was when I presented that we have to do more, that we have to do more to voice what is happening, that we can't just let this continue. And he agreed. And he chose to come to the refuge, and he was a huge, huge factor in educating the people. He communicated with the media. We held press conferences with the media, and it was international media. It was, national, international media. I mean, we had Russian TV, France TV, and so on and so forth. Of course, all the news channels here and stations and here in the United States were part of it as well. So, or at least most. And Lavoy was a great voice. He could articulate. He was educated and understood, and so he began to play a huge part in getting the word out. And then, again, we were invited to several other counties and communities, and we had a schedule clear full. We were scheduled to go to Grant County, we were scheduled to go to Ontario, we were scheduled to go, and then we had out to several other places, and we had individuals in Wyoming, Montana, Utah, as well, that were Idaho, that were scheduling meetings with us to meet with large groups of individuals and to talk to them about these issues and actually lay a plan to correct them. And Lavoy was a huge part of that. And so the first meeting we had set was in Grant County, Oregon, and we, as planned, headed over to Grant County, and as many know, you have to cross this path and get high in the trees there, and there was lots of snow. And as we were passing there's a spot. There's no cellular service. And right in that spot, the FBI, Oregon State Police, and who knows what else, ambushed us. And stopped us in the middle of the road, surrounded us with guns, and none of them were identified. We had no idea who they were. They came out of the trees and surrounded us. And there's video of this. And then when we began to inquire what's going on and who they were and so forth, there was a shot that was fired. And it was fired at the first vehicle, which was Lavoie's vehicle. And I was in the vehicle behind. I wasn't actually in the vehicle with Lavoie, so I'm going to have to basically tell you what I've learned from those that were in the truck now. But they were afraid. They were afraid, and they had a reason to be, because they had already shot and seemed to be provoking and trying to instigate something. And so Lavoie felt that it would be best if they got to Grant County, because that he could get Sheriff Palmer there to maybe calm the situation down and protect them. And so he headed off to go to Grant County there, and came up on a roadblock that they had, which was a dead man's roadblock. It's an illegal roadblock in Oregon, and he tried to go around that and got stuck in the snow. But they began to open fire on them before, even while they were traveling towards the roadblock, and even before they got to the roadblock, they were opening fire on that vehicle. And so when Lavoie got stuck in the snow, they continued to just fire into the vehicle, and I believe that he knew that if he didn't draw that fire away from the vehicle, that all of them would be dead. And there was 3 other individuals: my brother Ryan, a lady by the name of Shauna Cox, and there was an 18-year-old girl in there as well. And they were just, like I said, freely firing into the vehicle. And so Lavoie jumps out and runs out into the snow with his hands in the air, and he says, shoot me, shoot me. And he's literally drawing the fire away from, and so they killed him. They shot him 3 times in the back and left him dead, bleeding there in the snow. And then they continued to fire into the vehicle after that even, but mostly with just a gas and non-lethal. And so they killed a man. And what did they have in their truck? They had a laptop, a PA system, and a projector. They were planning to go to a meeting to teach the Constitution. And it's interesting as we unwind this, and we see that there was emails that said things like, we have to stop the virus. The virus is spreading. Government emails saying the virus is spreading. And they didn't want that truth getting out. They didn't want us going to those other communities and teaching these things and helping people understand the federal government does not have jurisdiction in the state. They do not have rights to control the land. They don't have rights to control our communities, our education. That we haven't given them that. Nowhere in the Constitution does it allow for the federal government to come into the state to manipulate and control our schools, to control our industries, to control agriculture. They're very limited, and they didn't want that virus spreading. And they killed a man in cold blood in order to stop that virus, and then they threw the rest of us in prison for 2 years.
Ammon Bundy joining us here, speaking about Lavoie Finnegum and his time. Ammon, we've got about 5 minutes left, and then we'll definitely have you back for more. But, I mean, you've been beaten up by the feds in Nevada. You've stood up. You've done all these things. What was going on in your mind? Your brother's in this vehicle. Lavoie's down. Shots are ringing out. Did you fear for your life?
Yeah, I mean, I had... at the time, I don't know. I could see the individual that was in front of me in the front seat. I was in the back seat. I mean, he had at least 15 red dots on the back of his head. And, it's hard to explain these individuals because, and we could do a whole show on just that, because we need to consider that government can get out of hand. I mean, let's not be naive. Let's look at history. Let's look at other nations. Let's look at the past. And who takes rights? Yeah, you have your street criminals, and of course we have to defend ourselves against them. And we want a system to be able to keep them from coming into our homes, kicking down our doors, and stealing our stuff and hurting our families and ourselves. We want a system to stop that. But let's look at history. Who is the taker of rights more than any other group or entity? And is it not government? I mean, we have to consider that there must be a reason why our founders put limitations on government. There must be a reason why governments are only allowed to do certain things. People in government are only allowed to do certain things. And that they're only allowed to make certain laws. And this idea that they can make a law for anything and that they can do anything, that they can come and, just say that we have committed a crime over anything, it's very dangerous. I know I'm being very general in what I'm saying, but let's consider where the threat truly is. And these individuals that are doing the enforcement side of government, they call them operators. Most of them are coming, from, they've served in the military, they like what they do. And so they find that the place for them is like in a law enforcement capacity or in like FBI and so forth. And a message I want to say to them is consider what you went in the military for in the first place. Did you not go to protect the freedoms of the people and to keep these things from happening to people? And just consider that maybe what someone is asking you to do is the very thing that you are going to defend against in these other countries. And be that check and balance to protect families and to protect the people. So I know I kind of went down a little road here, but I want people to consider those things.
Well, Ammon, we'd love to have you back and have you on for another hour or two. I know it's an adjustment. You're in our thoughts and prayers, and we appreciate the time. Anything else you'd like to say? And again, we'll have you back on as much as you'd like and as much as you're available, sir.
So we can go full circle here. I believe that God inspired our founding fathers to draft this Constitution for the protection and liberty of the people. I believe that he still cares about the liberties of this people. And so he inspires people to do certain things and to act and to stand. And then he delivers us. And he delivered us. And I'm a free man because of him. And I don't believe there's any other way that a small ranching family, that's all we are, can fight the federal government, the most powerful government in the history of man, and prevail. Not only just prevail, but to dominate. And it's not because of us. It's because God gave us the advantage, because we have his favor, because we're fighting and standing for the same principles in which he placed and built this nation upon.
Ammon, God bless. Our best to you and your family, and thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
All right, there we have it. Ammon Bundy. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Attention, Idaho. Meridian Public Auction wants to announce the